Okay. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, this motion carried unanimously. Mr. Chairman, this concludes our committee meeting, and I'm going to turn it back to you to start the board meeting, whatever your wish is at this time.
Thank you. I would add to the other comments, I didn't want to interview 10 people, and Maury kept telling me, we got to do this. This is too important. And I spent all day there yesterday under Maury's leadership, and he was right. We did the right thing, and the staff worked hard, but Maury deserves all the credit because he pushed us to do it, and I appreciate that. Manoka, will you take the role of the full board?
Okay, thank you, Chair Colson. Vice Chair Hosseini?
Here.
Governor Beard?
Here.
Governor Carter?
Here.
Governor Caruncho? Governor Caruncho?
Here. You hear me?
Governor Caruncho, that's you?
There it is.
Thank you. Governor Frost? Governor Frost? Governor Kuntz?
Here.
Governor Parker?
Here.
Governor Perez? Governor Perez? Okay. Commissioner Robinson? Commissioner Robinson? Governor Rood? I think I know that he's traveling. So Governor Stavros?
Here.
Governor Temple?
Here.
Governor Tripp?
Here.
Governor Webster?
Here.
Governor Watley? Governor Watley? And Governor Yost?
Here.
Chair Colson, you have a quorum.
Thank you. The only agenda item on the for this meeting right now is the report out by Maury of the new trustees of the Polytech. So Maury, I'll turn it over to you.
Mr. Chairman, our board members heard all day. We went through the whole thing. So at this point, I'm making a motion on behalf of our Nominating and Development Committee to the full board that we appoint Dr. Sandra Fetterman to the Florida Polytechnic Board of Trustees for a 3-year term beginning July 16, 2012. We appoint Dr. Dick Hallian to Florida Polytechnic Board of Trustees for a 2-year term beginning July 16, 2012. We appoint Frank Martin to the Florida Polytechnic Board of Trustees for a 3-year term beginning July 16, 2012. And finally, we appoint Don Wilson to the Florida Polytechnic Board of Trustees for a 2-year term beginning July 16, 2012.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second for that motion?
Second. I second, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Outstanding list.
Great. Thank you, Matthew. Anything further? Okay. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Maury. Wonderful job.
Thank you.
The only other, we have nothing further on the agenda, but I think I'll ask the Chancellor for his input, but I assume everybody has seen the publicity about President Adams at Florida A&M submitting a letter of resignation, resigning effective October 11th. I have not yet talked to the chairman of the Florida A&M Board of Trustees, and they have an emergency meeting scheduled for Monday, so I don't have any thing to provide you with greater input than what's been in the newspaper. Frank, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to be communicating with Florida A&M University today. Dr. Ammon's office did reach out to me yesterday. He and I personally were unable to hook up because, of course, I was with you all day at the meetings in Orlando. So it wasn't that he did not try. He very much did to alert me to the fact that he had tendered his resignation. According to the resignation letter, there is a caveat within his contract that requires 90-day notification of resignation. And so you will notice as we copy all of you with that letter, an October 11th resignation date. This is in keeping to the day with that 90-day notification requirement. However, it is our understanding, and we'll confirm all of this today, that the board will be moving forward on the issue of an interim president and could come early as Monday in terms of at least beginning that conversation. I'm not saying, and we'll deal with all of this later today, I'm not saying that they will have an interim to name on Monday, but that conversation will have to take place sooner than later, and I believe it will probably begin to be discussed on Monday, what they would be looking for by way of an interim, what the status of that interim would be in terms of that individual's ability to apply for the full-time position of president of Florida A&M down the road or not, and what the expectations of any interim would be during that critically important interim period. Mr. Chairman and members, that takes me to the following issues. As we all know, we've been dealing, not just Florida A&M, but all of us within the state university system and even the state regarding the issues surrounding hazing at Florida A&M, and certainly always sensitive to the tragic death of one of our students, Robert Champion. That trial or set of trials will begin here in the very near future. On having seen the Florida Department of Law Enforcement complete their investigation. But I remind you that there are still two investigations that will continue to unfold. One is by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement regarding the issues of fraud and theft. That is still an active and open investigation by FDLE. And of course, our ongoing investigation regarding institutional control, ours being that of the Board of Governors, continues. And we have been working very diligently on that, and that will, regardless of resignation, continue to move forward to its conclusion for purposes of assisting the university as it moves forward regarding the very important issue of institutional control. We also know, relative to the conversations that we all just had in Orlando, that there are other issues very important and very timely regarding the future of Florida A&M University, beyond hazing, beyond the issues of fiscal note, and some of the other things that have been getting most of the attention of late. And they surround the issues of the academic future of Florida A&M University. If you all remember back to the meeting in Orlando, the motion to approve 12% differential tuition had two additional components attached to it. One was that Florida A&M provide a very rapid turnaround with greater attention as to how that differential tuition would benefit the undergraduate program, especially the issues of retention and graduation rates, as well as assisting more of the students in being successful through graduation at Florida A&M. We have received that updated report from Florida A&M. It has been reviewed, and we are recommending to the board that it is in keeping with the spirit of that part of the motion, that they further clarify with greater attention to additional advisors and counselors and the like, how they can better support the students in their undergraduate program to a successful completion. The second part of that motion, however, was relative to a much larger issue related to the work plan. And that was a reprioritization of the original work plan that was tendered by Florida A&M with much greater emphasis on the undergraduate programming at the institution as it relates to the other priorities, which are graduate and research work. The board really felt strongly at that meeting that there needed to be much greater attention paid to a reprioritization of their strategic plan, their work plan, to make certain that there was much greater emphasis in prioritizing the undergraduate program and the success of the undergraduate program at Florida A&M in their plan itself, and that be brought back to the September meeting, along with some other universities and other university issues that came out during discussions for a revisit in September. I say that to say this, ladies and gentlemen, that the next step, and that is the identification of an interim, is going to be vital to Florida A&M as it relates to those issues, because these are issues that cannot wait. These are issues that impact students today on the ground at Florida A&M, and also will set a predicate where Florida A&M goes in the future. And I think we all agree that beyond some of those critical issues that we've been dealing with just over the last year or so, not least of which is the hazing issue, which has understandably garnered most of the attention, the vital component of the academic program at Florida A&M University and greater success rates for all is something that is vital to the future of the institution. So as Florida A&M looks to fill the interim role of president of the institution, that should be considered much more than just a placeholder until a full-time president is ultimately selected, which, as we all know, could take 6 months, 8 months, or a year, depending on the process and depending on the applicants. And that is a critical amount of time that cannot be wasted in terms of simply looking for the ability to sit tight until that position is filled. Many of the decisions that have to be made regarding the university's academic work plan, the policy decisions that determine who the student body is at Florida A&M, what the academic programs look like, the priority of the undergraduate programming, so vital to that institution, issues of enrollment and admission requirements, those things can't wait for a year. So we will be reminding Florida A&M University of the fact that the Board of Governors has an essential role in confirming not only the full-time president ultimately selected in the future, but also confirming the interim president selected in the short term. And that's not just a reminder regarding regulation, it is also a reminder that the Board of Governors needs to be engaged in that process, both full-term and interim, to make certain that we're all on the same page relative to the leadership of that institution, both long-term but also short-term. So we'll be reaching out for those conversations today, Mr. Chairman, and we will keep our board members apprised and know that the Board of Trustees of Florida A&M University obviously has all of those things in their best interest as well for the university, but that this is a partnership between the Board of Governors and the Board of Trustees. No more important than right now as transition is about to begin. So I will turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair, and to the board, and see if you all have any other questions that I might be able to answer, at least today, with what I know.
Dean, this John Temple.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to kind of fold back to Polytech, but maybe Maury's the best one to answer this. But I understand the governor had interviewed 6 out of 7 applications. Is that all? Is that all he's had? Or do we know if do we know what their plans are? Do they have more applicants than just the 7, or
Oh yes, they had John. They had many applicants. Not only that, but personally, the governor has a big interest on the Polytech because it's on his watch. He has a tremendous interest in seeing the Polytechnic to be successful. So he has been making phone calls that probably you and I can make, making phone calls to CEO of Apple or Google or the biggest technology companies in Florida, and try to get the CEOs, COOs interested to serve on this board. So he is actively involved to find good people to interview. And I believe he will be appointing less than 6 people for the same reason. And so there are a lot of good people that have been interviewed, and I believe very soon there will be an announcement from their office. They have done their due diligence pretty heavily.
Okay, so just because I guess he's interviewed 7, right, and he's got 6, doesn't mean that he's going to pick from that 7.
No.
Is that what you're telling? Yeah. Okay, that's what.
That's my guess. He is very particular about that. Wants to have the highest caliber of people on the board. So they had many more applicants and recommendation, and he himself and his office very involved in the process of their appointment. In some of their interviews, they asked me to join and to be in some of the interviews I did, and some of the people he interviewed were very qualified. So they are, I don't know who they are, who's going to be the people coming out. It's his decision, but I can tell you he is most involved on this process.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Hey, Dean.
Yes.
Can I go back to the Florida A&M?
Please, because I want to make a comment too, but go ahead.
So while, I guess I feel like a veteran of our board, although I'm still a rookie, and so the hiring of a new president is a process that I'm interested in, and so I guess I wanted to state how I think it works, and then maybe you can help clarify, because I think it works that we delegate to the local boards the authority to go and recommend a new president or an interim president, and we confirm it. But I guess my real question is, what level of involvement, and whether it's Florida A&M or any other of the universities, what level of involvement would our board have in the formulation of the recommendation versus simply being a body that confirms after the local board has made the recommendation? Because by the time that's also vetted, it's coming to us, it doesn't. If that's the way it worked, it would only come to us at the end. It doesn't feel like we would have a large or even a small say in the matter. And so I'm just curious, is there a process to have us be more involved in any of the schools? This is obviously, a current event, but I'd ask this question no matter what the school was.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that I touched on in my speech in January when I started. The role for us to have in the process for all the schools. But ultimately, we delegated the power away, and then things have happened since that initial delegation. In the settlement of the lawsuit with the legislature, there's some language in there, and Ricky can tell it to us, but basically says our role is to confirm or approve the selections made, and it's limited to that. Now that's a memorandum of understanding. It's nothing that would prevent us from legally, I guess, from withdrawing our delegation. But right now, as things stand, and we would, we will get involved with. My position is I'm going to call their chairman. I'm going to say we want to be engaged. We want to talk. We want to assist. We want to support. We want Florida A&M to succeed. And let us help you do that. And they rightfully, I think, are territorial about this as a board of trustees who's had this. So, we're going to have to, it's going to be a delicate balance, but we've got to get engaged. So
I guess I'm a little concerned. I just want to, on any of these, and it really isn't just Florida A&M. I want to make sure that we are somehow involved through the process, so that we're not just getting a visit by the new president with the chairman of the board and saying, please ratify this person.
Well, the University of Florida, the Gator Nation is searching for a new president. So whatever process we ask of Florida A&M, we ought to ask of the University of Florida.
I totally agree, and I just so my opinion, just one person's opinion, but I just am concerned that I want to make sure it's more than just receiving the visit from the new president and the chairman of the board and saying thank you very much, please confirm this.
I understand.
Yes,
and
this
there's a negotiation that needs to take place.
Right.
Chairman, this is Joe Corincha.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. No, I kind of echo both your comments and Tom's, and I was waiting to say something similar, which I think it should apply to all universities. But I think in particular, as again, although I'm a rookie as well, but in our recent meetings, and then just kind of becoming familiar with the unique issues and that Florida A&M has had, and I think it is important that we stay engaged, as you said, and also and that part of that engagement be an insistence that they go outside of the pool, if you will, of kind of Florida A&M alum and do a nationwide search or really look for the best talent out there, because it is arguable, at least in my mind, that some of the systemic kind of issues that they're having potentially require someone from the outside to come in and make kind of revolutionary change instead of evolutionary change. So I would certainly encourage the kind of engagement that you were talking about and that Tom was talking about.
I'm going to call their chair today, and we're going to start the process. But and I think one of the things that this is me personally. I believe that there's a very important role for Florida A&M in the state university system into the future. So we've got to make it a success, and and our board of governors has a role to play in that. So,
Dean Norman Tripp, could I say something?
Yes, sir.
We're talking about our role in the selection of the new presidents. We really do have a kind of a history that we've established of what our role is. And so if we really do want to change that, I think we need to be upfront with all of the boards of trustees and have some open discussion, including the input from those trustees of what we would like to see in the future. We've had this conversation now 2 or 3 times, but the reality is, for a number of years now, the board has sent the message to the local boards of trustees that they select the president and we confirm it. And I always understood the idea to be that we were not going to have a controlling role in the selection, but if they brought somebody forward that we were uncomfortable with, we kind of had a veto. But we keep having this conversation, and I'm a little concerned about what the message is going back to the boards about what we really want to do.
Yeah, and I think it's a balance, Norman. The last thing I want to do is take away from the boards of trustees the power to hire and fire the president, because then we knew to them. Then the presidents ignore their boards of trustees and only have to deal with us, and we're more remote. On the other hand, I think there may be a role for the Board of Governors to play in the process, and because we may bring a different point of view. We may be a little bit more distant, and be able to add some value. It's a balance. We don't want to neuter our boards of trustees by taking away their ability to hire and fire. But on the other hand, we want to be engaged. So it's going to be a negotiation. It's going to be a discussion.
And Dean, this is Tom. I certainly wasn't suggesting we control the process.
I understand.
What I'm really suggesting is that we're involved in the process.
I agree with that.
Yeah, Mr.
And
Chairman.
Dean, my only comment is that we need to move forward on something if we are going to do something.
I agree, and we got two big searches going on right now. I mean, getting ready to start. The University of Florida one and the FAMU one.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add that historically there was reason that at some point we thought it was important that we play a role in both the selection as well as the final selection. And so I think that if we're going to step back as a board and make some decisions about what role we're going to play, that we don't lose sight on both of those parts of the puzzle. And then secondly, I think that I guess I want to echo your sentiments that there seems to be some concern about our board's commitment to the success of Florida A&M and what that looks like. And I just think it's important that we support you in what you're saying and that we understand how precious the university is as a part of our system, and that any actions that we take are in support of furthering the mission and advancing the university, and certainly not seen as some attempt to to limit the potential or limit the role that it plays within the system, because it's unique, special, and important.
I agree. So and I'm going to tell that to the chairman today, and we need to get engaged in a supportive role, but we need to be engaged. So that's what I want to. That's what I want to do.
Mr. Chairman.
And I'll get back to everybody. I mean, I will call a meeting and update everybody on what's going to happen and how we're going to proceed.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
This is Matt Carter. I like what you have to say. I think that locally, some people may be under the impression, a false impression that there's no support. But I want people to understand that we have a tremendous amount of respect and support for Florida A&M University. And I just think people need to understand that what we're trying to do is in the best interest of the university. FAMU is a very important part of our state university system. It will always be a part of our state university system, and we're committed to excellence at the university. And I just think that sometimes, from a local standpoint, you guys are just removed sometimes locally. It gets lost in translation, but people need to understand that we are deeply committed to Florida A&M University, and I appreciate your comments.
Yes, sir, and I echo your...
Chairman, this is Dick Beard. I just wanted to mention to you all that the bonds were sold for the housing this week, and so FAMU's got a new facility coming in. So.
Great. Wonderful. All right.
Norman Tripp, if you're going to talk with the chair of A&M about involvement, are you going to also call the chair of University of Florida that our role would be the same in both?
Yeah, I had actually had a discussion with their prior chair about this, and then Carlos has stepped in, his term ended, has stepped down, so I need to talk to their chair as well. So I will. They're the same. It's not different. So. I will do that as well.
Mr. Chairman, this is Frank, and I'll be really brief on this, and maybe a little over the top. I've heard all the comments that have been made, and I concur. But to say, I think at some point, and you and I have talked about this, this good intent needs to be institutionalized. We really do need not leave this to each individual university to decide over time if they will or won't accept involvement of the selection of the new president. I was a president, and I can tell you there is not only a necessary allegiance to the institution on a president's part, but there also needs to be an allegiance to the system to which that institution is a member. And I think what the Board of Governors brings to the search process is that component, an involvement in the selection of a person who will not only lead the individual institution to greater heights, but also contribute that institution's good works to the system and vice versa. So at some point, although I realize this was devolved away some years ago, I remind people historically that at one point the Board of Regents did all of the hiring, evaluating, and firing of presidents if that became necessary. No one is advocating that because now we have in place great boards of trustees. That was done in the interim, and they exist and they're outstanding. But I don't think it is in the best interest of the institution, and I certainly don't think it's in the best interest of the system to abdicate away that which is, I think, a responsibility of the Board of Governors to be actually involved in the process of selection. And so I think as we look at regulations that need to be tweaked in the future, I believe that is one that we ought to look at and decide what that involvement might entail, not just for these two searches that are going on, but for the searches that will take place, because they always do, for many years to come, and call this question and then not have to wonder and worry what that involvement might look like in the out years, in the out process.
I don't disagree with that, and we ought to do that. And so I'm going to try to negotiate a voluntary process for these two that are going on now, because they may happen before. We can change rules and regulations and have a discussion about what's the right way to do it, but we will do that. I think that's the right thing to do. I mean, it's what I suggested we ought to do last January. This is one of the things we have to be involved in. So, okay, this got a little further afield than my board agenda. I like to keep these, but I think it's been a good discussion. Anything further? If not, I will call for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
A second. All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you all. Have a great summer.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.